Hello everybody, just a heads up, I'm under the weather, so I apologize for that throughout this video. Hope you enjoy it. Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. And today what I have for you guys is my way too early 2023 college football rankings. Like I said, this is a way too early. Things change by the minute. So let's get it started. Number 25, we have the Oklahoma Sooners led by head coach Brent Venables. 6-7 record in 2022. Quarterback Dylan Gabriel is returning in 2023, which should give this team a huge boost heading into next season. Behind Gabriel in the QB room is five-star freshman Jackson Arnold, who also won Gatorade National Player of the Year. Alongside them in the backfield, I expect Javonte Barnes and Gavin Sawchuk to fill the void of losing Eric Gray. The receiver room can stay a mystery till spring comes around. On the defensive side of the ball, I expect a huge leap in 2023. Brent Venables is too good of a coach for there to be no improvement. The Sooners are pairing a top 10 recruiting class with guys like Peyton Bowen and Poju Adebore. With what they got in the portal is very promising. They also got Jacob Lacey coming in along with Tracy Ford, Deshaun McCullough from Indiana. Overall, for Oklahoma in 2023, I expect Oklahoma to be very improved next season under head coach Brent Venables. Next up, we have the Wisconsin Badgers, led by head coach Luke Fickell. They had a 7-6 record in 2022. The Badgers getting Luke Fickell, this is a big deal because the Badgers are finally hiring someone from outside of their footprint. Coach Fickell will bring change and innovate the way they do things. I think bringing in quarterbacks like Tanner Mordecai and Nick Evers gives them a good QB room. They also have one of the best running backs in all of college football with Braylon Allen coming back. They also landed USC wide receiver transfer CJ Williams, who is very talented on the outside. Former North Carolina offensive coordinator Phil Longo is headed to Madison for the same role there. On defense, they lose coordinator Jim Leonard, who is one of the most respected defensive coordinators in college football, but they're not losing their good players, and they're also bringing in guys who can play early and play right away if they're a transfer. I think we'll see a lot of young guys get an opportunity to show the new staff what they can do. Whenever you have a new staff, everyone starts over. Every player on the depth chart, they get another opportunity. With Luke Fickell being a defensive mind, I have very little doubts about that side of the ball, and I expect an improved season from Wisconsin in 2023. Ole Miss comes in at number 23, led by head coach Lane Kiffin. 8-5 record in 2022. They have a lot of returning talent, including quarterback Jackson Dart and running back Quinshon Judkins. While losing wide receiver Jonathan Mingo and wide receiver Malik Heath, Lane Kiffin, he went out and got two stud receivers. He landed wide receiver Trey Harris and wide receiver Chris Marshall, the former five-star recruit from Texas A&M. Linebacker Suntarine Perkins, one of my favorite prospects in the 2023 class, will be an instant impact player as a true freshman. I have full confidence in that. Physically, he'll be ready from day one, and he has the entire offseason to learn the X's and O's. Even though Ole Miss, they lost a lot of impact guys from 2022, I think Lane did a good job in retooling his roster. I expect a good 2023 from them. Coming at number 22, UTSA, led by head coach Jeff Traylor. 11-3 record last year, very good season. The biggest story for UTSA is that star quarterback Frank Harris is returning in 2023. Harris was quietly one of the best quarterbacks in all of college football. They also have running back Robert Henry in the backfield to pair with Harris. The biggest obstacle for this team will be finding coaches to fill important roles. Offensive coordinator Will Stein, he's now at Oregon, and Matt Maddox, he left for Purdue. With Harris coming back, the new OC shouldn't have a hard time finding his rhythm. Now on defense, they're going to lose linebackers like Dadrian Taylor and Trevor Harmanson. On the bright side, though, young stud Trey Moore has 3 more years of eligibility left, and cornerback Marcellus Wilkerson looks to fill a void at corner. With many changes and key players leaving, I still expect UTSA to fight for their conference title and possibly a New Year's Six bid. Coming in at number 21, North Carolina Tar Heels, led by head coach Mack Brown. They went 9-5 last season. Looking into 2023, you can't talk about North Carolina without mentioning quarterback Drake May. Drake May, one of the best quarterbacks in college football last year, will be a preseason Heisman candidate. Wide receiver Josh Downs, he's moving on to the NFL. You'd expect guys like wide receiver Devontae Walker and Nate McCollum to fill the void. Wide receiver Andre Green Jr. is someone I expect to have a breakout season in 2023. I really liked him coming out of high school. Offensive coordinator Phil Longo, who I mentioned, he was highly sought after in the carousel, decided to move on and go to Wisconsin. Mac Brown went out and got Chip Lindsey from UCF. On defense, North Carolina, they lost a lot in the secondary that was well below average in pass defense. They lost some guys, including Tony Grimes, Storm Duck, and Cameron Kelly. Getting safety Derek Allen and corner Elijah Huzzy will make for an easier transition between changes. If I were a North Carolina fan, I would feel optimistic about the defense because of guys like Power Echols returning. Number 20, Tulane. The Green Wave, led by head coach Willie Fritz. They had the biggest turnaround between seasons last year. They went 12-2. And Tulane is losing a lot of guys from their 2022 squad that made it to the Cotton Bowl and beat USC. The biggest loss is running back Tyjae Spears, who is moving on along with their top two wide receivers in Deuce Watts and Shea Wyatt. On the defensive side of the ball, Tulane will have to replace their top four tacklers from 2022, which is never an easy task for any team, unless you're Georgia, Alabama, etc. They're trying to fill in those holes by getting guys like linebacker Tyler Grubbs and a safety duo of Darius Swanson and Kevin Adams. Lastly, the main reason I'm still high on this Tulane squad is because of QB Michael Pratt is returning. Whenever you have a quarterback that was really successful coming back, it's always good. Having your QB come back another year and retaining your head coach like Willie Fritz is huge, and I think Tulane benefits from that. Number 19, one of the most underrated teams in my opinion in 2023, the Texas Tech Red Raiders, led by head coach Joey McGuire. 8-5 record in 2022. The number one reason I'm high on Texas Tech is because of what they have coming back. Along with QB Tyler Shuck returning, they also added All-Conference USA center Rusty Stats, who is very attractive to many top programs while in the portal. They also added wide receiver Dre McCray, who led the Atlantic Sun in both yards and receptions. On defense, they did lose All-Conference edge rusher Tyree Wilson to the draft, but will have 6 seniors on defense in 2023. Along with those seniors, they added safeties C.J. Bakersville and Brendan Jordan. I'd expect this defense to be very stout next season in their second year under Joey McGuire. Number 18, the Texas Longhorns, led by head coach Steve Sarkisian. 8-5 record in 2022. Yes, they went 8-5, but that was an improvement after 2021. Losing Bijan Robinson is tough. He was one of the best players in the 2022 season. With that being said, Texas will return around 9 starters on offense. Leading the group is quarterback Quinn Ewers, who is due for a breakout year in 2023. The Longhorns also returned 44 starting linemen on offense, which is good news for any QB. Who will be joining him in the backfield is still unknown, but I expect 5-star true freshman running back Cedric Baxter Jr. to get his opportunity. Speaking of true freshmen, linebacker Anthony Hill will look to fill a spot of DeMarvion Overshone. The freshman class for Texas overall will have an impact in 2023. If Quinn Ewers, if he struggles, I expect Arch Manning to get his chance. Next up, we have TCU, led by head coach Sonny Dykes. They made the college football playoff. They beat Michigan. They made it to the Natty. They had a 13-2 record last year. TCU is losing a lot from their playoff team last year. Losing Max Duggan will hurt this team a lot, but to what extent, we do not know yet. You have veteran quarterback Chandler Morris coming back at quarterback, but offensive coordinator Garrett Riley, he's headed off to Clemson. They also lose all Big 12 wide receiver Quentin Johnston. With all of that being said, Sonny Dykes has hit the portal very hard and with a lot of success. He went out and got a 3-headed monster from Alabama, wide receiver JoJo Earl, running back Trey Sanders, and offensive tackle Tommy Brockermeyer. Sonny Dykes understood that losing their star corner Trevius Hodges-Tomlinson was a big deal, so he went out and got JUCO corner Channing Canada and Avery Helm from Florida. Overall, I love what TCU has done with this roster, but everything being so new could be a small concern for this team. Number 16, Kansas State, led by head coach Chris Kleeman. 10-4 record last year, made it to the Sugar Bowl, won the Big 12. The Wildcats are losing running back Deuce Vaughn and quarterback Adrian Martinez, but don't worry because QB Will Howard is returning. If certain players announce their return, this team could have all 5 starters back on the offensive line. They went out and got a promising athlete in wide receiver Keegan Johnson. The biggest concern for Kansas State fans is what the secondary will look like next season. JUCO safety Will Lee is now on board, and I expect him to get his opportunity to start. One player to keep an eye on next year and through the spring is freshman quarterback Avery Johnson. I'm not saying he will start because that's 100% Will Howard's job to lose. What I am saying is we might see some packages for talented true freshmen come fall camp if things go right early on. Coming in at number 15, the Oregon State Beavers, led by head coach Jonathan Smith, 10-3 record in 2022. The Beavers are another one of my sleeper teams this year. With success comes turnover, and the turnover for the Beavers is players heading to the NFL draft, which you do not hear very often. The Beavers will have to replace a lot of key players in the secondary. They also lost linebacker Omar Spades, who was a tackling machine. With all those guys leaving, this roster will be loaded heading into next season. Coach Smith went out and got himself a quarterback in DJU from Clemson. He's headed to Corvallis, along with wide receiver Montrell Hatton. Pairing them with the outstanding running back duo of Damian Martinez and Deshaun Fenwick, that will be a lethal offense up in Corvallis. On defense, the Beavers are reloading. They're adding a talented front seven trio of Nico Taylor, Kelsey Howard, and Olu Omotosho, who was a stud at Wyoming last season. With great coaching and a very talented roster, I expect the Beavers to make some noise next year. Number 14, the Utah Utes, Pac-12 champs, led by head coach Kyle Whittingham, 10-4 record last year. Utah is a team that's losing a lot of high-impact guys, players like Clark Phillips, Tavian Thomas, Dalton Kincaid, and Micah Bernard. May have you questioning what this team will look like. Well, to start, they have quarterback Cam Rising returning. He's the heart and soul of this program. I'm not worried about the running back position because of Jaquindon Jackson. He looks like a star in the making. He played really good in the Rose Bowl and in the Pac-12 championship. On defense, they're hoping some of their additions, whether it's freshmen or portal additions, that they'll be able to contribute next year. I expect Navani Damouni to step in at linebacker and true freshman Hunter Clegg to get an early opportunity. With all the changes and veteran players moving on, Cam Rising will put a fire in this team, and Utah will be fighting for their third consecutive Pac-12 title. 13, the Clemson Tigers, led by head coach Dabo Swinney, 11-3 record last season, and Clemson is returning a lot of talent on both sides of the ball. Also, getting Garrett Riley to be the new offensive coordinator could end up changing the fortunes of this team from 2023 and beyond. You have Cade Klubnik coming back, and pairing him with Riley should work out very nice. Keyword should. You just never know what's going on in Clemson with the offense the last couple years, but it should help. They're losing lots of talent up front on the D-line, but once again, I expect true freshmen Peter Woods and Vic Burley to be the next freshman stars at Clemson. Tyler Davis, he also announced he's coming back. He'll be one of the better defensive tackles in the nation this year. Also on defense, there's a lot of raw and very young talent. I'm hoping to see guys like Toriano Pride Jr. and TJ Dudley to make huge leaps because I followed them a lot coming out of high school. For Clemson fans out there, I want to know what the vibe is around the program right now. Is there hope of the offense taking a step forward now that you got Garrett Riley? Or will the transfer portal era continue to hurt the Tigers? Number 12, Notre Dame, led by head coach Marcus Freeman, 9-4 record in 2022. Same faces and new places is the theme for Notre Dame. Quarterback Sam Hartman is headed to South Bend in 2023, looking to lead the Irish back to the playoff. He's one of the best quarterbacks in college football, number one quarterback in the portal. More great news is that their top three running backs are returning as well from last season, possibly 2 or 3 of the starting linemen coming back. To add to those groups, they're bringing in offensive tackle Charles Jagusah and running back Jeremiah Love in the 2023 recruiting class. I'm a big fan of both of those guys. The Irish will be very good on defense next year as well under Marcus Freeman. You know, it's his second year there. He's a defensive guy. They did lose Brandon Joseph and Isaiah Foskey, but I have a lot of faith in Marcus Freeman. Prior to last season, I was a big fan of the hire, and I think Notre Dame is due for a big season. Number 11, the Oregon Ducks, led by head coach Dan Lanning. 10-3 record last year in 2022. Oregon is losing 4 starters on the offensive line. Dan Lanning, he saw that coming. He knew it was going to happen, so he went out and got the number 1 lineman in the portal, and Ajani Cornelius. That's very important because they'll be blocking for veteran quarterback Bo Nix, who announced he's returning in 2023. Oregon will have more talent at their skill positions than they've had in some time. The running back room is loaded and very deep. Bucky Irving, Noah Whittington, and Jordan James all returning, and they bring in talented freshman Dante Dowdell. At receiver, they have all Pac-12 wideout Troy Franklin to pair with Trayshawn Holden and Tex Johnson from the transfer portal. They also bring in 5-star wide receiver Jurion Dickey. On defense, I expect a huge leap in year 2 under Dan Lanning. They return their entire defensive front besides DJ Johnson. They're overturning their roster heavily and bringing in instant impact players. Linebacker Justin Jacobs and corner Kyrie Jackson figured to fight for some starting spots. Lanning and company also went out and got Jordan Birch, the former 5-star edge rusher from South Carolina, and they're pairing him with 5-star Mateo Uiagalelei, and I expect the Ducks to fight for the Pac-12 title in 2023. Number 10, the Washington Huskies, led by head coach Kalen DeBoer. 11-2 record last year, and you can't talk about the Huskies without talking about Michael Penix Jr. and this explosive offense. The QB announced his return for the 2023 season, and that led to his standout receivers announcing their return as well. To go with their already loaded core on offense, they're adding Jeremy Bernard and running back Daniel Ngata. Now, Washington will have some holes to fill in the offensive line, but there seems to be optimism that these guys in the building will live up to the billing and perform well. Washington has been building up this defense for the past 2 off seasons, and getting 2 edge rushers like Joe Moore and Zach DeFree is huge, given there will be spots available and lots of playing time to be filled in the front 7. Another guy I expect to have an impact is Raylan Goforth. With all that being said, the Huskies will be battling for the Pac-12 title and are a dark horse for the playoff in 2023. Number 9, the Tennessee Volunteers, led by head coach Josh Heupel. 11-2 record last year. They beat Alabama. They had a very good season, and even though last season was quite a ride for the Volunteers, I know their fan base isn't satisfied. 2023 looks to be very promising if things go the right way. They're losing a 3-headed monster on offense in Hendon Hooker, Jalen Hyatt, and Cedric Tillman. But at QB, they have Joe Millen and Nico Iamaleava. The way Josh Heupel has recruited will benefit this year, and when you lose guys year to year, scheme is important. I think their offense will be good as long as you get good fits because of how they play. They went out and got Dante Thornton, who could be their new wide receiver 1. His potential is through the roof. Pairing him with Brew McCoy and Cameron Seldon will keep this offense lethal. On defense, they're retooling and reloading, but with very good players. 3 names that stand out in terms of new faces that can help this team are Chandavian Bradley, Caleb Herring, and Keenan Peely. Bradley and Herring were highly sought-after recruits in the 2023 class, and I think Tennessee is going to build off that Orange Bowl win over Clemson and have a lot of momentum heading into next season. Coming in at number 8, the USC Trojans, led by head coach Lincoln Riley. 11-3 record in 2022. No team in the country can say they have a Heisman Trophy winner coming back. The Trojans have superstar quarterback Caleb Williams returning in 2023. The cast of players around him on offense is absolutely spectacular. Mario Williams, Taj Washington, Brendan Rice, Dorian Singer, Mekhi Lemon, and Zachariah Branch create a top 3, top 2, top 1 receiving core in college football. Definitely top 3, but there's an argument for the top 1 and 2. Branch will also bring an element to special teams that will light up Los Angeles. In the backfield, Austin Jones is returning as well, along with Rayleigh Brown. Coach Riley went in the portal to get Marshawn Lloyd from South Carolina, so you have a 3-headed monster in the backfield going for you. The Trojans might have the best offense next season. We'll just have to wait and see how a revamped offensive line performs. On defense, obvious things didn't go well last season. I'm sure Trojan fans are hoping they see a new Alex Grinch, but how likely is that? I have to credit the staff for going out and getting instant impact players, though. If the scheme's not right, hopefully good talent can cover a little bit of that up. They got linebacker Mason Cobb, defensive tackle Kion Bars, edge rusher Anthony Lucas, and quarterback Christian Roland Wallace. If these guys live up to the expectations, we could see an improved defense next season. Number 7, Penn State, led by head coach James Franklin, 11-2 record in 2022. Penn State's success in 2023 will depend on the play of young quarterback Drew Aller. Aller, a former 5-star in the class of 2022, will have a lot of talent around him. That includes a dynamic duo in the backfield of Nick Singleton and Katrin Allen. Wide receiver Devin Williams and Keandre Lambert-Smith will probably be Aller's main targets. Olu Fashanu, who was projected a top 10 to 15 pick in the upcoming draft, is coming back for another season. The offensive line will be stout, and Aller will have a good front line in front of him. On defense, the Nittany Lions will have a ton of young talent returning. Looking at the roster, they have Kalen King coming back, Abdul Carter, he's back in the fold. They also used the portal to their advantage and got Storm Duck to help out the secondary. Manny Diaz will have this group playing with their hair on fire. I think the defense will be a big reason Penn State will have a shot at the Big Ten title and a college football playoff berth. Number 6, have the LSU Tigers, led by head coach Brian Kelly, 10-4 record last year. Talk about returning players. LSU is projected to have 10 guys returning on offense alone. One of those guys is quarterback Jaden Daniels, who led the Tigers to the SEC championship game last year. They're losing wide receiver Kayshon Boutte, but they're replacing him with either Aaron Anderson or freshman Jalen Brown, two players I really like, and that they'll have a shot at the starting job. Two very viable options to add to an already talented wide receiver room. Shifting over to the defensive side of the ball, this team is loaded at every position on defense. Whether it's proven guys or players who are expected to have huge seasons, the Tigers return arguably the best linebacker, Harold Perkins, who broke out in 2022 as a true freshman. On the D-line, they return Mason Smith, who will be all over the preseason magazines and probably a top 10 pick next season. Off the edge, they have high upside guy in Braden Swinson. In the defensive backfield, Brian Kelly went out and got Denver Harris and Jackaleel Johnson in the portal, two highly sought-after guys from many top programs. They ended up choosing the Tigers. They also bring in talented true freshman Javian Toviano, who I'm a big fan of. He's going to be fighting for some playing time as well, definitely a special teams guy. When you put this defense with what they'll be on offense, very explosive, look out, the Tigers will be very good in 2023. Number 5, Florida State, led by head coach Mike Norvell, 10-3 record in 2022. Talk about everything clicking and going the right way. We're seeing that in Tallahassee right now. Mike Norvell has finally got his roster the way he envisioned it. The Seminoles are expecting 16 starters to return next season, one of those being Jordan Travis, the quarterback, who ended the year last year as good as any quarterback. Running back Trey Benson is back next year, and he's looking at that Doak Walker award. The Noles are dominating the portal, getting tight end Jaheim Bell and a good lineman pair of Byers and Roddick to fill up some holes. One guy to keep an eye out for is 5-star wide receiver Hakeem Williams, the true freshman coming in looking for a spot on the depth chart. Micah Pittman and Johnny Wilson, they figure to hold down the top 2 spots in a loaded wide receiver room. Switching over to defense, stud pass rusher Jared Verse is back and ready for a title chase. He was a projected top 10 pick. He announced he's coming back next year. To go with Verse, you have Fabian Lovett, who is also back on the defensive front. Braden Fisk and Darrell Jackson also figure to be high-impact guys as the season goes on. And to top things off, they added the top corner in the transfer portal, Fentrell Cypress. All in all, this is by far the best roster Mike Norvell has ever had, and 2023 is their best shot at winning the ACC and making the college football playoff. Coming in at number 4, I have the Ohio State Buckeyes, led by head coach Ryan Day, 11-2 record in 2022. The Buckeyes are returning the best wide receiver room in America next season, if not the best, definitely 1 or 2. Marvin Harrison Jr., Emeka Egbuka, Julian Fleming, Brandon Innes, Carnell Tate, and Noah Rogers will be almost unstoppable. I expect Kyle McCord to be the starting quarterback, and he'll have a ton of weapons to throw to. CJ Stroud, as I record this, has not declared for the draft, but we all expect him to. If he doesn't, I'd probably put Ohio State at number 2 in the preseason rankings. But because Kyle McCord, I think he's going to be very good. I mean, I have Ohio State number 4, but that's really the deciding factor there is quarterback and what they're losing. So if CJ Stroud comes back, they could easily be number 2. But Travion Henderson, Mayan Williams, and Dallin Hayden create a 3-headed monster in the backfield. At tight end, they got a stud in Jelani Thurman coming in to add to a room that has Cade Stover already. The only concern is that they're losing 3 starting O-linemen, and 2 of them are tackles that could go first or second round in the NFL draft. They didn't land any of the top linemen in the portal. They missed on a couple of them, which will have this stay a question mark headed into spring, what this offensive line will look like. Looking at the defense, they're losing Tyrone Vincent and Zach Harrison up front, and Roddy Hickman is also moving on to the NFL draft. With that being said, JT Tuamaloa and Jack Sawyer are back, and so is linebacker duo of Tommy Eichenberg and Steele Chambers. The Buckeyes are hoping to be stout yet again on defense in the front 7. There are 2 players in particular I want people to keep an eye on, 2 former 5-stars with potential through the ceiling. First, safety Sonny Styles, who can do it all on defense. One of the most coveted safety recruits of the last decade. He was a true freshman this year. He reclassified, coming back next year. I expect him to play a huge role. CJ Hicks, the linebacker out of Dayton, Ohio, the former 5-star linebacker. I think he's looking for an improved role also. And Ohio State, they have three key games that are going to determine their season, and they're all on the road: Notre Dame, Wisconsin, and Michigan. And we'll see how that pans out and whether or not the Ohio State Buckeyes can make it back to the college football playoff. Next, we have Alabama, 11-2 record last year. New year, new team is probably the best way to describe Alabama heading into 2023. That's the number one reason I have Alabama this high. I expect coaching changes to come, and rumors are Saban has some top guys in line for the coordinator spot. I saw some people talk about maybe bringing Jeremy Pruitt back if things get passed through the NCAA. Remember Jeremy Pruitt? He put together some of the best Alabama defenses and coached some of the best Alabama defenses in 2016 and 2017. So if they get him, that changes everything for this defense. The recruiting is going to maintain top in the country. And overall, the play on defense, the scheme, is going to be outstanding. Nick Saban definitely having a say on that as well. On offense, they'll have to replace Bryce Young with two viable options, either Ty Simpson or Jalen Milroe. They're going to battle it out there for the quarterback spot. At running back, they're absolutely loaded with talent. Guys like Justice Haynes and Emmanuel Henderson, two 5-star recruits coming out of high school, they're going to get their shot, in my opinion. You lose Jahmyr Gibbs, who carried this team. There wasn't a definite running back 2 and 3 last year, so I expect those two young guys to get a chance. Bama got the number one JUCO player this year in wide receiver Malik Benson, who figures to be a top 1 to 2 receiver along with Ja'Cory Brooks and Kobe Prentice. On the offensive line, I expect Caden Proctor to step in and fill a need at tackle. Proctor is a 5-star recruit in the 2023 class and the number one offensive lineman. The defense will be led by Kool-Aid McKinstry and Dallas Turner. The defensive front is losing some key guys, but they're reloading while also having some talent climb up the depth chart. Jaheim Otis and Damon Payne will be expected to have elite seasons up front. The freshman class Alabama is bringing in is second best class of all time. Safety Caleb Downs, he should be their starting safety. Probably the best player in high school last year. Disregarding no position, just overall best player. Keon Keeley, the number one edge rusher, he's coming in looking for a starting spot. Will Anderson's out the door. Keon Keeley sees that spot open. He's definitely going to be going for it. Guys like James Smith, Quay Rusall, and Desmond Ricks, some other young guys, they're going to be pushing these veterans for playing time. Like I said, a lot of roster turnover. I expect that turn out being the best thing that could happen to Alabama. And the sky's the limit for this group if they keep it together. Number 2, the Michigan Wolverines, led by head coach Jim Harbaugh. 13-1 record in 2022, only loss coming into the college football playoff. Michigan is coming off yet another playoff appearance. In 2023, everything is lined up for them to get back there. Quarterback J.J. McCarthy is coming back along with best running back duo in the country. Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards are going to make up the backfield. They're losing some starters along the offensive line, but they landed some great pickups in the portal. Ladarius Henderson, Drake Nugent, and Miles Hinton figured to step in and provide some immediate help for Coach Sharon Moore and company. Michigan is bringing in Carmelo English, who has a lot of upside, and a receiver I expect to make a leap is Darius Clemens. Clemens was a highly sought-after recruit coming out of high school. Comparisons to DK Metcalf, I expect him to be on the field come the fall. The Wolverines' defense was stout in 2022, and it's looking like it could be even better. They lose Mozzie Smith and Mike Morris in the front seven, but solid recruiting and good portal additions will shore up those departures, one of those being Josiah Stewart. Mike Sainristil and Will Johnson could be the best defensive back duo next season. Keon Sabb will be looking for a larger role as well. He's a young stud from IMG Academy, safety. I expect him to get some playing time. Linebacker Ernest Hausman is yet another chess piece Jim Harbaugh is adding to this defense. And if this defense is anything like it was last year, I expect Michigan to make another run at the college football playoff. Coming in, number 1, probably unanimous across the country, in many way too early rankings, is the Georgia Bulldogs, defending national champs, back-to-back champs, led by head coach Kirby Smart, 15-0 last year. Georgia is losing a lot on both sides of the ball, but it's not about what they lose, it's always about what they're bringing back. Yes, losing guys like Jalen Carter, Keely Ringo, and Stetson Bennett is huge, but they're going to be so deep across the board next year, it won't even be funny. It's looking more and more like Carson Beck will be QB1 in Athens next year. Ra Thomas and Dominic Lovett look to be the top targets out wide. 2 big transfer portal gets for the Bulldogs. And at tight end, you have Brock Bowers and Oscar Delp. They created another dynamic duo at tight end. In the backfield, you have Kendall Milton, DeJuan Edwards, and Branson Robinson. They're all returning. I fully expect Todd Monken to have this group clicking on all cylinders. Now, on the defense, this is where things get scary for opposing teams. The Bulldogs' front seven will be 2 to 3 deep with very talented players at nearly every position. When I say 2 to 3 deep, I mean NFL players that are going to be drafted first or second round probably one day. Starting off on the defensive line, Michael Williams, Marvin Jones Jr., Chaz Chambliss, Jalen Walker, and then 2 5-star freshmen, Samuel Mpemba and Damon Wilson, look to come off the edge. That position alone is just ridiculously loaded with talent. That's just pass rushers. Then in the inside defensive line, you have Bear Alexander, Nazir Stackhouse, and Warren Brinson. Very tough to run on those guys. You have Smail Munden and Jamin Dumas-Johnson coming back at linebacker. Malachi Starks, Kamari Lassiter, and Javen Bullard. 3 guys who started this past season. They're all coming back in the secondary. All in all, the Dogs are reloading and are bringing back one of the best rosters we've seen in recent years. Scary thing is, it'll be like this as long as Kirby Smart's in Athens. And they keep winning because it's looking like they could have the best class of all time in 2024. And looking next in 2023, the Dogs are going to be the heavy favorite. That's going to do it for today's video, guys. Like I said at the beginning, and if you haven't noticed, I'm a little under the weather, so I apologize for that throughout the video. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, comment your favorite team down below, and what you expect them to do next college football season.